Well, thank you all for being here this evening, and welcome. We're so glad to have you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Val Nye. I'm the library director at SFCC. And on behalf of the SFCC Library and the partnership we've developed with the Creative Writing Department, we thank you for joining us tonight. So this series is called Wri-Gen, short for the Writing Generation. It's built around connection. Each visiting writer brings a reading, and then we gather again to follow up with a creative session where participants have an opportunity to write, generate new work, and engage more directly with the author's process. It's one of my favorite parts of the series to be able to hear a writer read their work and then to engage in creating our own work. Tonight, we're honored to have our author reading her work, and then next week she'll read us through a creative session. And the creative sessions are truly for everyone. You can do as much or as little during that time as you would like. You're never required to share your work. Our goal is simply to create a space where we can all engage in the creative process. For those of you who do create something and would like to share it, we'll be holding a community reading on Wednesday, May 6th. That's a Wednesday at 6 p.m. And that will be a chance to share your work that has been inspired by our authors and by the time we spent together this semester. We also want to extend a special thank you to our marketing department. I see Emily here this evening. We're so grateful for the work that you all do to make sure that the word about this event gets out, and you are the ones who bring us all together. So thank you. Just a quick note about the format tonight. After the reading, we'll have time for some questions, so feel free to put your questions into the chat as they come to you. I'll be collecting them. We do record these sessions so that people who can't attend live still can experience them. But that being said, having people here in real time really matters. And so the energy you bring, the questions you ask, the space that we share, that all makes this series really special. So we're really grateful you've chosen to join us tonight. And now I'm very happy to hand things over to my colleague, Austin Eichelberger in the Creative Writing Department, who will introduce our featured writer for this evening. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Val, and thank you everyone for being here at our first event of the semester. This reading is brought to you by the Santa Fe Community College Library and Creative Writing Program. We're thrilled to have you join us tonight for this special reading event. We hope you'll come back to celebrate the power of words and storytelling at our future events. Tonight's gathering is an invitation to those who have passion for the written word. If you've ever dreamed of becoming a writer, whether you'd like to craft compelling fiction, pen evocative poetry, or explore the world of nonfiction, SFCC is awaiting your arrival. In our program, students can earn a certificate or an associate's degree in English language creative writing. The Santa Fe Community College Creative Writing Program nurtures aspiring writers, providing them with the tools, guidance, and inspiration to take their creative endeavors to new heights. We believe that writing is not only a useful and practical skill, but an art form that has the potential to transform lives and connect people across time and space. SFCC's creative writing program is focused on your development as a writer, a reader, and a in-print literary journal. Related degree and certificate requirements include opportunities to intern with local magazines, newspapers, and publishing houses, explore the world of book arts, and hone screenwriting skills. Students work closely with professors and peers to develop, revise, and publish creative and academic writing in a range of genres and formats. Upon completion, you'll have gained the skills and experience to submit a manuscript for publication, pursue a career in editing, or continue your studies in creative writing. You can also now complete the entire program online. So please see the chat for links to our program website where you can see our course offerings for spring 2026, explore the program requirements, find information about the Santa Fe Literary Review, and the Kate Besser Awards, which are SFCC's very own writing awards. For those of you considering your own creative writing journey, we encourage you to ask any questions you have about the program. Whether you're an experienced writer looking to take a single course or a complete novice ready to explore your creative potential, we have classes and resources for you. In Santa Fe Community College's creative writing program, we believe that everyone has a story and every story is worth sharing. Tell us yours. And tonight, I have the special honor of introducing Jamie Figueroa. Jamie is a critically acclaimed writer whose work explores lineage, memory, colonial legacy, and the poetics of place. Her novel Brother, Sister, Mother, Explorer was praised by the New York Times Book Review, and her recent memoir and essays Mother Island continues her exploration of ancestral memory and cultural reclamation. Jamie brings tremendous creative generosity to her work, and we're honored to begin this semester with her. And I am just honored to welcome Jamie. She has a special place in my heart. She is the one who introduced me to the MFA program at IEI that I ended up attending and graduating from. So she has a very special place in my literary journey. So please join me in welcoming Jamie Figueroa.
Buenas noches, Taikaria. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Austin, for that beautiful introduction. We've known each other for quite a while, fledgling writers that we've been. It's lovely to be with you, and thank you again for that introduction. And Val, thank you for everything that you are doing in the library at SFCC and also for this beautiful combination of writing and creating and generating and hosting. I'm very grateful to have been included. So thank you so much. And it's lovely to see the faces, those of you who have your cameras on. Thank you so much. It's nice to be able to look at you and to read to you and to speak to you. It helps me feel connected. So thank you for that. So tonight I thought I would read a bit from Brother, Sister, Mother, Explorer, my first book, which is a novel. And that came out in 2021. I was realizing as I was reading through it today, like sometimes you go back and read your work. I'm sure this happens to many of you, whether it's in print or not, and you're like, who wrote that? What were they talking about? No, I felt a stronger connection than that, but it's, time's gone by. There's been many other things that have happened. Um, so I will read a little bit from the beginning, from the novel, and then I'll pause and read a little bit from Mother Island, the memoir and essays that came out a couple years ago next month. I don't think there's any setup that needs to happen for Brother, Sister, Mother, Explorer, since I'll start at the beginning. You'll get everything that you need. Um, okay. I will say that it's broken up into a weekend, so it's 3 parts. Three. I had my thumb there for a second. 3 parts, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I will begin with Friday, chapter 1. Oh, holy, 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 sings the sister Rafina. My baby, return. She can skin a refrain until it's raw, a glistening pulp of yearning, which is to say, she won't be the one who loses. Anyone can sing a song, hum a melody, claim a costume, but the way she tilts toward the crowd with the whole of her body, like a ready-made promise, now that should get your attention. It's undeniable. She means it. Don't take your eyes off her. It's the end of May and 10 past 4 on a Friday afternoon. This high desert mountain city has already begun to swell. At the height of the season, Ciudad de Tres Hermanas will double in size and then some. Tourists pant dry air through open mouths at 7,000 feet, waiting to be fooled. It's dizzying. They have earned this right, saved up for it. Never mind them. This is not a story about them. After all, this is a story about Rafina and her brother Rafa, who are performing little creatures they call songs, which are not songs at all. Not songs, but eruptions of noise, prayers, fortunes. Let's not call it ridiculous, which it can be if you're not in the mood. The plaza is a patchwork of grass, anointed with cottonwoods and box elders, pines and Russian olives. Trees are a blessing here in this place where water shamelessly flirts. Decorating the cottonwoods, crows, hungry and black as regret. Beyond the trees and the city limits, beyond all the one-story buildings made of mud and dirt and spit, 4 mountain ranges huddle, one in each direction, as if conspiring. Do you see them? Don't you agree? Their backs toward you, peaks crowned with snow as if royalty, and the sky, the only enduring commitment, the only enduring commitment, so vast and blue, it's no longer blue, no longer sky. The crows bark, a murder of them locked on the umbrella of branches above. Sound like a familiar place that you all know and have visited? Ciudad de Tres Hermanas is a fictional twin of Santa Fe, where I was able to kind of deposit San Juan, Puerto Rico, and also Santa Fe, New Mexico. So it's a composite, a fictional twin. It's as if Rafina is 10, not 28, and Rafa is 12, not weeks shy of 30. This is what the recent death of a mother will do: strip adulthood from grown children, send them to the streets begging for a reason to live. You'll see, it's Rafina's fault. Blame her if it doesn't work. She's the one who, the previous night, crawled under their deceased mother's bed where Rafa was pretending to hide, as if his filthy feet jutting out from beneath the frame hadn't given him away, and told him, "Look, if you want to die too, you're going to have to earn it. Life isn't easy, and neither is death." Her voice was a constant hiss of air. You're not going to hang around here dissolving like you're some kind of. Rufina paused, searching for the right word, the right image that would sufficiently support her scolding. All possibilities escaped her. It had been 4 months since they covered their mother, Rosalinda, the small, dark, worn scrap of her, in a blanket of mums and carried her away to be buried. It had been dusk, and the snow had glinted in mid-air while coyotes split the quiet with their crying. Rafa and Rafina had studied her as her waning hours had passed, as if she were a map they would never truly understand. Rafina inched closer to her brother's face, leaned toward the fleshy nub of his nose as if it were a microphone. "It's disgusting," she said. "Get to living or get a weapon. Enough is enough." She hoped her threat would work, hoped she could still manipulate her brother with a healthy dose of shame. Tricky, she knew, but worth a try. The day after Rosalinda's death, Rafa and Rafina had both lain on the cold tile floor of the living room, neither of them able to will themselves to stand, put match to kindling, and tend a fire that would thaw them. Instead, they remained numb. Grief waited at the edges, sniffing the boundaries of their bodies, waiting to be let in. The house had no choice but to watch. On the second day after Rosalinda's death, Rafina got up and started the fire. Rafa remained lost for the 3rd day and the 4th day, the 5th and 6th, staring into space, drifting in and out of sleep. He seemed to prefer the floor, as had his mother. It was where she had stitched embroidery and painted her ink portraits, where she ate and where she sat long hours, staring out the window that stretched from ceiling to floor of the south-facing wall, while a record tumbled sound and one cigarette after another clung to her bottom lip. With each week, then each month, Rafa had lost more weight, paled further, spoke less. Each new day had demanded he persist. He lit one of Rosalinda's cigarette butts, stained with her fuchsia lipstick, and let the smoke fill his nose, laced with the scent of her headache-inducing perfume. He could not get enough of his mother, the woman who was no more. Under the bed, Rufina was close enough to see the splinters of amber in her brother's wood-colored eyes. "We know how to do this," she said. "Remember how they used to throw money at us?" Which was almost the truth. Nearly a decade and a half before, they had been under the artistic direction of the explorer. He had arranged the two of them and their mother in the plaza, had them pose for hours. They were his material, his models. The money he collected on their behalf was impressive. Ultimately, the conversation had been one-sided and brief. In the end, Rafina was able to convince Rafa that pretending would get them just as far as practice. "You could do anything in front of a crowd of tourists and get money," she reminded him. "There was the way you stared at any of them, as if they were the only tourist that had ever existed. The way you smiled, as if that one and only tourist were desperate to spend money. The way you convinced the disoriented and slightly drunk tourist that they were not only welcome, but belonged." Rufina and Rafa had hours of this kind of performance embedded in their bodies. For the 7 years the explorer lived with them, acting as if he were their mother's husband, he would march them every weekend down to the plaza and start the clock. The clock was what kept them pinned in place for hours longer than they could bear. They had to stay as still as they could, imagining anything that would help them withstand the rounds of the clock's hands, the sun changing its tilt in the sky. The clock was always a dog, baring its teeth. They dared not move. And while even more than a decade had lapsed since they stood frozen like this as children, to do it now would take no effort at all. They were experts at pretending, groomed for it from an early age. Rafina 7, Rafa 9. "If there's enough money for you to leave by Sunday," Rafina said, the smell beneath the bed sour from Rafa's breath and unwashed hair, "you have to leave here and agree to stay alive." Outside the bedroom door in the hallway, their dead mother was making a racket, pounding her feet against the door. For Rafa, the dead mother shimmered in and out of his reality. Mainly, he understood her to have taken the form of memory, though there were moments he wasn't sure. He could sense her near, his nose prickling with her perfume, his hand warming as if touching her cheek, and then he couldn't sense her at all. It was death he felt near him, a kind of lullaby that overtook him. Rufina, on the other hand, had to deal with Rosalinda, who for her was undoubtedly present, still dressed in her funeral best, having emerged from her dark bedroom on the evening of the 40th day following her burial to convince her children that despite being dead, she was worthy of their complete attention. A crown of mums still fastened to her head, saffron petals sprinkled down the front of her custom-made dress. Rafa didn't have much to say in response to his sister's goading. In fact, he didn't say anything at all. His eyes were unfocused, his mouth open, bottom lip cracked, breath rhythmic and warm. He nodded. That was all Rafina needed. The nod, a sign. An agreement was made. They had the weekend. She shimmied out from under the bed, scraping her chin on the clay tile as she went, cursing her chin, the tile, their dead mother. Rosalinda! Rafina screamed at her mother, whose feet were still pounding against the door. Enough! Standing, she secured her good hip beneath her. The noise momentarily stopped. Then Rafina reached down, grabbed Rafa by his ankles, and dragged him to the bathroom and into the shower, where she stripped him of his boxers and cranked the faucet. As the water beat her brother, Rafina thought, of course there will be enough money. Of course he will leave town. She could see him on his island, pacing the perimeter of shore. This would mean one less dead. This would mean everything. So, here they go, these two, to the plaza every day to perform for the tourists. They get closer to having the money that they need and further away through all of the events that happen. And as they go to the plaza to perform, they are also dealing with the angel who has come to help Rafina, and Rosalinda, of course, who is very much around, and other characters and ghosts and memories as we go back and forth between time and space. Um, so you'll have to read if you haven't read to find out if Rafa makes it to the end or not, and how, and what happens to Rafina as well. Um, so I will read now a little bit from my second book, which is not fiction. It's creative nonfiction. Um, it is a memoir in essays, so they are very much linked. And when you read them together in order, you get a certain effect, but you don't have to. Um, it's called Mother Island, A Daughter Claims Puerto Rico. And given our celebration of late of Bad Bunny's performance, um, I thought I was going to read something I hadn't actually read before in public, but then I thought, no, I want to read actually something more connected to the island and in celebration. So the essays really look to reclaim um, our mother culture, our mother island of Puerto Rico. Um, my mother was born in Puerto Rico and was there until she was a young girl, and then she was brought to New York, and she was put in a Catholic mission orphanage where she stayed until she I think maybe she was a senior in high school, and then she left, had a brief stint in, I think, public school, and then enlisted in the army. So she had this experience of very much assimilating for survival. And so that affected how she raised myself and my two older sisters in rural central Ohio in the 80s and early 90s. So this book is very much coming to terms with um, how my mother came to be given all of the circumstances of her life and the historical circumstances and the political circumstances that also landed on her body that impacted the island, as well as my first time to the island and then taking her to the island after 50 years of having not gone back and our experience there together. Um, so it's a reclamation, and it ultimately is a way to the book very much explores the relationship with my mother, my mother's relationship with her mother, our relationship with our motherland. But then it goes far beyond that into all of the ways in which we are mothered by many forces. Um, and it lands there. So I'll read just a little bit. Um, I come from the sound of mangoes thumping against the ground at night. This is from the first essay, The Stories I Haven't Been Told, which first appeared in Emergence magazine. I come from the sound of mangoes thumping against the ground at night, let loose from the only branches they've known. I come from the songs of Koki. I come from cats that pour off roofs, huddle in dry, unused fountains, and clutter in shadows. I come from my grandfather's dark-skinned mother who, sitting in her wheelchair, held each one of her grandchildren close to her heart like the gold they were. I come from the bed where my mother and all her siblings slept with the hole in the middle that they had to navigate for fear of falling. I come from the ebony cousins who became the monsters in my mother's warning stories of whom to fear, the darkness hidden inside you, yourself. I come from poverty, birds hunted by slingshot, winged food. I come from the stones in the river, the roots of the mangrove, the surprise of stars glittering in the water of the lagoon. Wonders present generations before Columbus was born. In recent years, we've learned more and more about trauma, memory, and the brain. A multitude of studies have been released detailing up-to-date science about the relationship between these and how each functions. One can read through a number of medical journals or psychology blogs and piece together a basic understanding. Trauma can be defined as anything that overwhelms the nervous system. Trauma affects memory and cognitive function. Trauma steals our ability to recall the basic details of our stories. In their place, blanks. Our ability to perceive and translate experience into story, which in turn helps us make meaning, is impaired by trauma. Trauma affects our ability to imagine. If you subscribe to the information revealed by epigenetics, you have within each of your cells approximately 3 generations of trauma. Your body, the record keeper. An inheritance of emotional history. Remembering, as Belarusian poet Volgenia Mort explains in an interview about her latest book of poems, Music for the Dead and Resurrected, not how it was, but how it felt. My memory is affected by the trauma my ancestors experienced in their lives, as well as by my own trauma. My mother's story is also my story, as are the stories of my grandparents and my great-grandparents. The handful of explicit details I recall, often strange and incoherent, lost, found, lost, are assembled and reassembled. And of course, there are all the blanks. My family comes from an island that is owned by the United States of America. Property, not a state. After losing the Spanish-American War in 1898, Spain surrendered Puerto Rico to the U.S., which benefited economically and militarily as the island proved to be a key strategic location for bases while providing soldiers for wars, beginning with World War I. Infantry units were racially segregated until the 1950s. Citizenship, but not equal inclusion. Like a loyal, battered wife who will never leave her abusive husband, as how a Brazilian acquaintance once described the island in relation to the mainland. There is no vote on the island that counts across the official border. You have no voice in Congress or the White House when you are located between San Juan and Ponce, between Mayagüez and Luquillo. Only when you are a Puerto Rican resident of Florida Minnesota, New York, Iowa, do you have federal voting rights? Only when you are in the arms of the mainland within the empire's grip. This access to U.S. soil is more than other islanders have throughout the Caribbean. A leash of privilege, even if short in its reach. I'm just skipping around here throughout this essay. So I'll read a couple more quick sections. My notebook says it was like this. In Old San Juan in January 2010, the smells of sea, bird shit, and bougainvillea crowd the nose. In El Parque de las Palomas, you can buy a prayer amid 100 pairs of wings. The density of waiting presses down on the tongues of the faithful, down on the backs of naked necks and knees, condenses on the eyelashes of los niños who, looking across the water, see ghost ships and are reminded of masts and sails as they watch blouses, stockings, and slips anchored to lines suspended from apartment balconies. The bite of their madres, tias, y abuelas stench, more pungent than any detergent could ever hope to be. Sailing, sailing above it all. And las viejas praying, rosaries fluttering through their fingers, their lips becoming chapped as they plead. Hurricane season is coming. In the Plaza del Mercado, Angel and Jesus are just names. Dominican vendors, hips bouncing babies, cars scraping asphalt, begging to pass those in the way. Como? $5 perfume and high-heeled sandals in a bucket. Buy one pair, get the second for half price. A barbershop named Figueroa. I attach an A to the end in my mind. Across the way, a pig's head, the size of a pumpkin, yellows in the butcher's window. Fruit falls from heaven and splits on the street. Husk, skin, seeds, pulp. I step around it. People stand while they eat, tilt away from the mess hanging from their mouths. Pigeons the size of cats strut on the curb, constantly ripe. The body is waiting to open. It needs no instruction. 50 miles below, I can only imagine the tectonic plates as they rub against each other. I can feel it all day long, the shifting. Home is a question. Flip-flopping through warm puddles in the streets of Rio Piedras, I pass my groceries from one arm to the other, the bag my own version of a heavy baby. I'm on my way back to my desk and my notebook, of course, where I will list every detail. As I greet the ladies in house dresses, their damp hair rolled into curlers, and pass the boy on the other side of the chain link fence, his lips puckered into one of the wire openings, calling for my attention, something occurs to me about the triptych of maps I taped to my bedroom wall 5 years prior when I moved to New Mexico. What I had not asked as I studied the map of my family's origin was this. Do you remember me? Do you remember my family? Even those who left, even me, the first of those born off island. And while I could not hear the answer, I could feel it as much as I could feel the generational scars of trauma from having to depart the island for something better, which was better and not better. Where would it ever be better? Um, and I will end with this little section which is also another I come from refrain. Many of you have done those I come from poems. I come from El Yunque pressing with life, wet with life against my skin, mud and waterfalls and orchids blooming in air. I come from the great mother Atabe, from Guabansesh, female deity of the winds, from Itibai Cahuava, earth mother, and from Mama Yoteca, turtle mother of all peoples. I come from fault lines rubbing deep beneath the sea, opposition that frictions into new land. I come from the river of beauty and love, Oshun, the ocean of motherly love, Yameya, and the power of the wind, Oya. I come from the island of enchantment, the state of being under a spell, a place of magic. I come from the original people, worthy, honorable people who had thriving systems. They did not go extinct. I come from what is beneath, what has been painted over by assimilation, by time, by names, by the nature of graves, by colonization, and calls out in specificity. I come from the cobblestones in Old San Juan, taken from slave ships. I come from the backs that bent as they were put into place. I come from sugarcane fields, lives stolen, sweetness stuck between the teeth. I come from the simple freedom and magical suspension of a hammock, from chickens and horses wandering as they please, from sofrito, bacalao, plátano, cassava, arroz amarillo, from music demanding to be heard in ears and in hips every moment of the day and night. I come from the cacophony of being alive, yelling, dancing, crying, laughing, calling out to the next generation who pass by in diapers. Mommy, Papi. And I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Oh my gosh. And I can't believe we've known each other so long, and I did not know that you're from the same area that my dad was from.
Is that right in Ohio?
Yeah, yeah. Very bizarre. Very bizarre. Were you open to answering questions?
Yeah, I'd love to answer questions.
So let's open it up to our listeners, to our participants. Does anybody have anything they'd like to ask Jamie? And you can feel free to also put it in the chat and we will read it out.
Or just unmic yourself and talk. I think we're
Sure.
a small enough group to do that.
Yeah, feel free to just call it out. You don't need to put the hand up or anything like that.
As people are thinking of their questions, I just want to thank you, Jamie. It was so wonderful to hear you read, to hear the words pronounced and almost sung the way you intended them to be heard. So thank you for that. That was so special.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Val.
I know you read so beautifully, Jamie.
Oh, I appreciate that. I hope
Yeah.
everyone enjoyed it.
Well, and you do something that most writers do not do, which annoys me deeply as a theater major in undergrad. You look at the audience, and most people do not look up from the page, and you connect so well with your eyes. Anyway, connected me to your words even better. So thank you.
Thank you. The novel came out during the pandemic, and so my book tour was online, which was a big surprise after waiting a long time to have my first book come out, to have that experience. But it was a lot of practicing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good experience.
It
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
It
That's
was.
interesting.
Austin, may I jump in with a question?
Please do.
Yes, hi.
Hi,
That was
Linda.
fabulous.
Thank you.
Just mesmerizing. I was wondering, do you anticipate expanding into playwriting or different kinds of scripts and formats? Um, your stories would, I think, translate very well into theater. And I was just wondering if you had any aspirations or if you're comfortable right now in the challenges that already are given by fiction and nonfiction.
Are you a playwright, Linda?
No, I'm just interested in the arts. Thank you.
Okay.
I wish I could say
That
I
is a
could
very specific question, my
sign
dear.
you, but I just was thinking about a way to reach even broader audiences than you do now. I
Yeah,
think your life story is probably one that would be um,
um,
very interesting to see portrayed.
uh-huh. Wow, thank you for that. That's something to think about. Um, I feel like script writing, I feel like I have one hand tied behind my back because I can't go do all the things that we can do, right? Have that poetic language and descriptions and go internal and everything needs to be spoken. So it's a bit of a challenge. But I hear you about sort of reaching wider audiences. And a couple of things that I'm working on now is one a middle grade novel that I wrote about 12 years ago, that's called Cats in Casa 314. Um, and I returned to it recently, and it's just has provided such tremendous joy. Um, that I've just loved these characters that I created so long ago and have been have working on edits. And so I'll be sending it to my agent before the end of the month for him to send out into the world. And so that's really fun and exciting and a whole different audience of like 8 to 11 year olds, you know? And then I'm currently working on kind of a mixed genre book that has poetry and
Uh,
folklore, and also some personal essay. So that might get me closer to something like you're suggesting.
well, the way in which you read was so expressive that
Mm.
it seemed like it would lend itself well to the stage in some form. And that's why, or storytelling with children, or
Yeah.
something, in a circle. And just you were so expressive, it seemed that it jumped right off the pages. So
Now I have
that's
to
why I
tell you,
asked.
yeah, of course. I have to confess, I love oral storytelling. Like sit me in a circle and tell me a story and it's just like that mythical experience of time beyond time and the way that material is presented that we've been doing that for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years and it's alive in us. Um, so that is very fun.
Well, thank you very much. We'll look forward to all of your other adventures into literature.
Thank you,
So,
Linda.
mhm.
And
Carol,
we,
do you have a question?
uh,
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
yeah,
Do you find that do you want to ask it, Carol, or would you like me to read your question?
I can also read it out for you if you'd like.
That'd be great.
Do you find that creative nonfiction comes easier than fiction because you aren't coming up with the content from scratch? Is your fiction inspired by real life experiences? Great question, by the way.
Yeah. Um, I think they're challenging for different reasons. So when you're writing from your life, you have to curate the material that you're including on the page and you have to craft yourself as a character. And one of the things that I was really concerned with in writing Mother Island was I interrogate my mother and the choices my mother made. And I also felt like I had to hold myself as accountable, if not more, to anyone else that I questioned on the page, right? So, how being willing to show aspects of myself that are not favorable, that are flawed, that are contradictory, that are very much under development. Um, that's challenging. Also, in the book, some people feel like I was very sort of confessional in ways. And I actually left so much material about my family out of respect for them and their privacy. And so, what I did choose to include, I had to write it in a way that the reader would feel really let in and intimately connected with the material and invested, right? And so just curating which moments am I going to include and how am I going to cast them into scenes and remember dialogue. all of that was challenging, even though I knew the material, right? And then ultimately, I believe that in the best works of personal essay and creative nonfiction, even the process of writing the piece will change you, will bring new insight. And so, how do you include that also? With fiction, the novel was very much an emotional autobiography, which I've heard Sherman Alexie also use that term, an emotional autobiography. And so all of that material was sort of easy to access because I was, it was running around in my unconscious and kind of dictating my creative choices. And then what happened in all of those little Zoom rooms, giving readings for the novel, I was talking about my family. Like, there'd be the novel and these characters, and somehow I was always like sharing a larger story of context. And then I realized I was supposed to write another novel, which I had proposed, and I was working on some pages for my agent, and I don't know, I think I had like 4 months maybe to work on it, and I didn't. I worked on this Mother Island proposal. And when it was time to turn something in, I was like, hey, so I didn't actually work on that novel that we agreed on. I had to do this instead. And he was really excited about it. And, we polished it and we sent it out and it sold and had to finish writing it. But um that's all just to say that I knew that if I didn't tell these core family stories, I was just going to go around and around and around. And maybe I still will, Carol, maybe I still will. But it's like I had to go over here and make this known. And then I can go back into these other spaces and imagine in different ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I've heard that before, that before you can actually write anything else, you have to write your story. Someone you have to like get that out and then other things will come to you. But that, yeah, your own story has to be told first. So thank you for kind of validating that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Ellen Fox. How are you?
Good, and you?
Good. It's nice to see you.
Thank you. I'm surprised you remember me.
I do. How could I forget?
This is not a question, but I just want to say, I started writing memoir at IAIA a long time ago, and life got in the way, and I still want to pick it up at an advanced age. Your phrase, "I come from," is very evocative for me. The challenge being that I come from Jewish, Polish, German, and Lithuanian ancestors, but I know nothing about what happened before they arrived here. And I'm very interested in the trauma of immigration and how amazingly my family, my ancestors, somehow adapted and thrived. Because, of course, now it's so different. So that phrase, I'm thinking, how could I how could I use that? Because I don't really know a lot about where I come from. My
Yeah.
grandmother was the person my maternal grandmother I was raised with after my father died. So I have the most knowledge of her. And she came at 4 from Lithuania. And it's an amazing story that I can write about with creative nonfiction or what I know. But everyone else, it feels like I would have to do and I don't mind, a tremendous amount of research, maybe on ancestry or to get some sense, not to mention that I come from, a religion of trauma, of traumatized people. And
Of
that's,
the diaspora. Yeah. People
yeah,
of the diaspora.
that's
Mhm.
in my DNA.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just wanting to say that I'm really grateful for that phrasing and that thought about "I come from" and where I could go with that, what I could do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the things that I do in the book, because there's a similar blanks. So I talk about the blanks,
Yeah, the blanks.
how to be in relationship with the blanks, right? And also I have certain phrases I repeat over and over, like I imagined it went this way, or
Yeah.
they're like signals that I'm going to be really transparent with the reader. I'm doing my best to remember, and I'm one person in a constellation of people who had the same experience, and others might have remembered it differently. Even though mine is being published, it does not silence theirs, the truth of their experience, and the truth of my experience, I also get to share. So there is a way in which I'm not trying to control or dominate the narrative. Hopefully, the way in which I'm sharing is an invitation for others to also bring their stories forward, which may be similar or completely different, right?
Well, everyone's gone. That's another issue. I mean, everyone is gone. But
Mhm.
when I did write a story about what I imagined my 3-year-old grandmother, how she was, it just came
Mhm.
so easily.
Mhm. Yeah. So entering those imaginative spaces, um, I think doing a lot of free writing where you're not interrupting yourself or trying to
Right.
control, but just really seeing what can be surprising in those sessions. I think also going to the old poems of places, going to the old traditional stories of places
Yeah, 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 yeah.
holds a collective consciousness of that place. And so you can spend time listening to those stories, entering those stories, retelling those stories, pulling out characters from those stories, and that activates something within our psyches that is far beyond our this one single lived life.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to
Yeah.
jump in and say, Val, our librarian, also said in the chat, I have attended a writing class where we wrote to the phrase, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking too. You always in memoir have the room to say, here's what I don't remember, and here's what I do remember, and to
Mhm.
differentiate and say, I don't know those stories, but I know my story. And you know what I mean. I would also
Mhm.
say it seems like you know a lot through them just from your interactions with them. You know what I mean? And so we share stories very subtly in many, many ways. You know what I mean? Bonnie in the chat said, I love how you weave trauma in and out of your story by the use of words, especially, quote, our story is impaired by trauma. As a trauma therapist, I can definitely attest to that.
Yeah, thank you, Bonnie. Where are you? I can't see your face. It's okay if I
Right
can't
here.
see. Oh, hi, Bonnie. Yeah, so one of the things that I'm really interested in is post-traumatic growth and the way in which narrative therapy works. And so when I was reading at the Mark Twain house, it was full of Puerto Rican families, like 3 and 4 generations Puerto Ricans filled the theater. And I think that's probably the most Puerto Ricans I've been around off island because I wasn't raised in New York. I didn't spend a lot of time in New York or other places, Miami or places where there's a lot of Puerto Ricans. So I was having conversations with all these folks as they were coming through the line after the reading, and there was one Puerto Rican therapist who said, this work is an act of post-traumatic growth, and that there is something beyond trauma and um, PTSD.
We
Uh,
should talk.
yes.
We
So
should talk.
so the thing that I want to bring forward about that is also the power of writing and telling your story. And it could be with your writing group, it could be with your family, it could be in a class, it could be in many different ways. It could be published or unpublished, it could be performed on the stage or at your local theater or not. But giving voice to our stories and our experiences and having those be witnessed creates new synapses in the brain. There is more thriving and living and sort of joyous reclamation and creativity and imaginative practices and writing brings us there.
Thank you.
Hello.
Also,
Oh, sorry.
I'm
Hi.
working. Oh, one more thing. I'm
Yeah.
working on a piece of sort of like that emotional autobiography. That is so right. I am working on a story about my family, and especially with my mother as the central figure. But yet, I also have to be vulnerable
Yeah.
to show myself with my imperfections.
Yeah, exactly. That vulnerability, right?
Ask my therapist. She can tell you all about it.
Yeah, right? Oh, yeah, there's lots to say about that, Bonnie. Hi, Yvette. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm sorry I got here late, but I have your
Oh, yay!
book
Thank you so much.
from the literary festival a couple years ago. I'm here in Santa
Oh,
Fe. So I
okay.
saw you there and I just want to thank you. I think your mom has mine beat. My mom was married 3 times and but I really just appreciate relating to your story. I'm from El Paso, but I've been in northern New Mexico for most of my life and yeah, I'm just kind of coming out of a whole career of teaching those teenagers. But I recently met my birth dad, like just in the last few years, and my mom didn't ever want to talk about him, and if she did, he was the bad guy, all the stuff. And I just really appreciate this event and feeling inspired because I just there's so much doubt, like, this is my story, do I really, am I too old, all the stuff, but it's just always there, and I hope to close this chapter of teaching after 30 years and get into the writing and really just take the time. And I just love the way you wrote, and I just found that, like, one of the things where you go through all the
Oh, yeah, all
colors
those,
of the
those
different
colors in
words
Portuguese
for
that the
different
Brazil have.
colors. And I just love the unique way that you um present your story, and it's just inspirational. So I got here a little late, so I hope to get the recording right and see the beginning and see what the intro was of where you are. Um but yeah, I just wanted to thank you, and I hope that I get to see you around Santa Fe here sometime. And I
Absolutely.
just chopped off all my curly hair. It was like down to my butt, and I just
Oh,
chopped it
wow.
off. I know,
Wow, welcome to
trying
your
to
new look.
really get myself into the transformation for real. So
Absolutely.
thank
Well, thank
you.
you for your service as a teacher, and
Yeah,
thanks for
of
coming to the
course.
literary festival. And so a big shout out to those folks and the upcoming event in May. And also, I know we're kind of winding down on time, but just to say that um, I'm very much in this place of thinking about how we outsource our authority, how we look to others to tell us what's meaningful and purposeful and what has value, and how to reclaim that, reclaim your own authority in all aspects of your life, and especially when it comes to your creativity. So, if writing is something that is important to you and has meaning for you, then no one else needs to validate that. No one else can take that away from you. No one else can diminish that. So questions like, am I too old? Does this matter? All of that that's just noise. You're gonna have to do something with your life that is important to you. And if writing is your thing and you know it's your thing, it's your responsibility to show up and to do it.
Thanks. Oh, and by the way, he's a writer and a poet, my dad, my birth dad. So I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
well, look at that.
I
Look at
know.
those
It gave me kind of
epigenetics.
this permission to be like, okay, no wonder. but I was raised by an engineer, so I'm like a science teacher and you know, in the very, that world for a lot of decades. So I'm
Yeah,
looking
so
forward to it though.
your inner poet, storyteller, mystic gets to have another many decades of a whole different experience.
Second act.
Second act.
And you know that one of my favorite authors is a neurosurgeon. So wonderful writers come from all over. We need all perspectives in the writing world. Just saying, just saying.
Thank you.
Anne Marie in the chat said, "Thank you. Great readings, Jamie. Looking forward to next week." And I
Thanks, Anne
think we all
Marie.
are. Did anybody have any final notes to put in? Karen, I saw that you are unmuted. Would you like to put anything out there for us?
Well, I'm just very shy, but I want to say thank you. That was absolutely wonderful. And the when you started saying I am from that whole piece in there, I have a poem I wrote some years ago that is still one of my favorite things I've ever written that you reminded me of. And I went, oh, shoot, I've got to pull that one out again. But
Yeah,
thank
absolutely. Thank you, Karen. Oh, you all are giving me ideas on how to shape next week on
you.
Wednesday when we write together.
Oh,
And
exciting.
I love the program. I just want to say thank you. I followed with it, but I'm so rarely, most of the time I've been asleep by 6 o'clock, so I never make it. And I said, I'm going to stay awake tonight. I'm so glad
Thanks
I
for
did.
staying awake, Karen.
Thank you so
We're
much.
so happy to have you here. Thanks, Karen.
Well,
We hope everyone will. Sorry, go
thank
ahead,
you for
Val.
your inspiration, Jamie. I'm so excited. This has just been a wonderful evening, and I can't wait to see what we do with you next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope
Yeah,
all of you can make it and we'll do some fun writing together and see what
great.
kind of good trouble we can get into.
Excellent. We can't wait.
All right. Have a
All
good
right.
night, everyone, and I will be in touch with the login information again next Wednesday, and we'll look forward to seeing you all then. Take care.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much for being
Bye.
here, everyone.
Gracias.